All right, welcome to the Phys Ed Summit, and it's presented from ESPEchat. This is our second summit, and we thank you from the Phys Edagogy crew for their guidance in leading the way for high-quality professional development. My name is Mike Giannicola, Phys Ed Depot on Twitter, and we are talking about teaching in small spaces, organization, and creativity with Kristen Murphy. If you're joining us live today, please use our Tozzle page so you can join the discussion. You can find the Tozzle page at espechat.weebly.com. Click on ESPEchat Summit, and then click on the 2016 schedule. You'll find the links to the Tozzle for each presenter on that page. Since we're using a lot of technology for our sessions, you know that things can go wrong. And if we experience any difficulties, either use the Tozzle to let us know, the chat, or send us a message on Twitter. If you have any major problems, we'll get the presenter back as quickly as we can. And just use the links on the Tozzle and Twitter. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Tozzle chat. And when I find a good time in the discussion with Kristen, we'll see if she can help out with any of those. And we'd love to see you posting on social media about what you're learning. Don't forget to use both the hashtags ESPEchat and Phys Ed Summit. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen Murphy, and I'm so excited for this info.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our presentation here. I'm so glad that you can make it. If you are here, if you could just sound off in the Tozzle so that we know that we are speaking to some actual human beings out there. And I'll wait so that I'm not getting ahead of ourselves here. Mike, are you seeing that anybody's here?
Yep, so we have 4 viewers.
Okay.
And I just sent it through the Tozzle chat, so people are probably still getting adjusted.
Okay.
So it's all you.
All right, I guess I'll go ahead and get started then. And let me know, please, if I'm going too fast or you have a question with something. I want to make sure that I'm here to help you as much as I can. All right, let's start the screen share. So I'm here to present to you this morning, teaching in small spaces. And my take on that is just how organization and creativity have really played a role. Just a little bit about me so you understand where I'm coming from and the lens that I am speaking to you through. I went to University of Maryland, College Park, go Terps. I currently teach in the PG County Public School System. I've been the PE teacher there this is my 3rd year. And about 40% of my classes are in a multi-purpose room. So I share that space, and then about 60% of them are in an empty classroom, and that has changed over the years, and I'm sure that I will talk about that a little bit more as we go through. I am blessed with a variety of equipment and a large closet, so we have lots to do. Of course, being a PE teacher, you know how we always want more. We can always see how much more we can use for our students. So, and there's just my Twitter handle if you want to follow along with what I do. So before we move on, I want to know who I'm speaking to and what grade level you teach and what kind of space you have, so that if we have a lot of people that are teaching in a trailer or a lot of people that are teaching in just a small classroom or pushing into a classroom, so I can really speak and help individuals there. So if you can, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move on over to Kahoot. If you're not familiar with it, it's just a really fun interactive way to have students and adults answer some questions that you have for them. So go ahead and open a tab and go to kahoot.it. And once you're there, you're going to enter the game pin that's right in front of you. And if this does not work, it's completely fine. The questions are right there. So if you are your preference is to just answer those in the toggle, please feel free to do that as well. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go over there myself. Kahoot.it. So we have 3 people. I'm going to have just a few more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and start it. So here's the question, if you're not familiar with it. And then in just a moment, it's going to give you some answer choices. And you can just choose the box that best applies to you. So far, no one answered. Hopefully you'll get in on the next one. There we go. Somebody got it. So we have some veterans here. All right. So if you can't see it, I'm seeing that some people cannot see the answer choices on their screen. I'm not sure how to fix that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It looks like they are definitely not seeing it.
Okay.
I'm seeing it by looking at my view from the Google Hangout, but not on the Kahoot itself.
Okay, so then let's just go ahead and exit out of that. I don't want to take any more time on there, and I'll go ahead over to back here, and you can kind of sound off answering those questions in the toggle so that I can kind of see. You should be able to now see the questions that I'm presenting. Just sound off and answer those in there, and I'll take a look at it as I keep going. So now that we do or we don't know where we are starting, hang in there with me, everybody. Where we're headed today is by the end of this session, what I want you to have is resources, ideas, strategies, as you go back and you plan for the rest of your school year, or you're just looking at the next week, however you do it. I want to help you as much as I can with new things for you to try as you teach in. I had a friend that looked this over and they laughed at my use of unusual spaces. And that's just because each of us teaches in such very different settings and we all come from very different backgrounds. So that was the best way I could put it. But that's where we're headed today. So hang in there with me. So when I was thinking about some concerns that I had for myself for teaching in small spaces, I came up with 3 big ones. The biggest one for me is safety, because there's just a lot of angles, a lot of corners. How do I make it safe? The floor is slick. The second one is organization. I have found that it is so key to be organized as we move students around in just the physical space that they're organized in. And then movement time. I noted my first year when I was teaching in a trailer, there was just a lot of sitting because I was unsure of how to be safe and organized. And so I really had to take on these 3 things as a challenge for me. So the first thing we're going to talk about is safety. So some things that I have come across, and I'm sure some of you have seen this, but a lot of sharp corners in my classroom. So I teach in an empty classroom. It's a moderate size, and there's counters that stick out, cubbies that stick out, and those sharp corners are just, as we know, a danger to our students. So I have a lot of pool noodles that I've just purchased on my own for field days, for things around. So you just take one of those, you cut it in half, and then you can just mold it to fit around the corners. And another thing is there's a water fountain in my room along with the sink. And I noticed that if I allowed students to get water, they would not swallow and then they'd spit it out across the floor, or it would just drain onto the floor. And so I got a carpet and I got double-sided tape, some of the thick, really heavy-duty ones, and just went ahead and stuck that to the floor. Because my floors are a little bit slick, that carpet was just sliding around. And so I took that same idea and just marked off different areas of my room, as you'll see later. So I have warm-up spots. I have station lanes so that everyone knows the boundary of that station and where they need to stay inside of, so that no one else is running into each other. And just marked off those places in the floor so that I'm not having cones that are being kicked or poly spots that are sliding around because of the dust on the floor. So those are some of the simple safety things that I've seen. If you have any safety tips and tricks, please sound off in the Tozzle. I'm sure that we would all love to see what you have come up with, but these are just a few that I have. So safety and organization kind of blended together here. I have some classes in my space that are about 30, 32 students. And when you fill them in a small classroom, the room feels very full, as I'm sure some of you know too. So what I had to quickly think about was I can't have 32 moving in this room at one time. And the weather is such here in Maryland that I can't always go outside either. So what am I going to do? What I did is I went ahead and took a look at student jobs and how am I going to use that. So let's take a look at this document. And please, Mike, let me know if people aren't able to see this. I just created just very general student job descriptions so that they would know what I'm talking about at all times. So one is the recorder. They can record the cues of the skill. They can be the one that's writing down the answers for an assessment or the recorder for a peer assessment. They can be the one that's recording the discussion items from Think Pair Shares, and I think you get the idea there. So the second student is the performer. So they're the ones that if you're doing underhand throwing, they're the one actually underhand throwing. They're the one following along with the cues. And then the last one is the observer. So you have the person that is doing the underhand throw, and the observer would be watching them, but telling the recorder, okay, they're doing 2 out of the 5 cues. Okay, they're doing this, they're doing that. So they're the ones that are sort of relaying that information. And I did something with this sort of thing just a few weeks ago with 3rd grade, and they responded really well. Sometimes in years past, I've seen that students kind of don't want to not be moving, but they really enjoyed this collaboration, this teamwork, and having the different roles. And of course, they all got to experience all of them. So let's go ahead back over here. So moving on to organization. There are 3 things I was considering when I was looking at this: equipment, physical space, and then the lesson. So I have a friend in PG County that also teaches in some small spaces, and so she offered up her examples and what she does in her room. So she has sent some excellent photos over to show exactly how she organizes her space and how students move around. So she has class sizes of up to 25 in this small trailer. She does have a small parking space outside of the trailer that she'll use when the weather is agreeable. And so if you just take a look here, you can see that she has as much floor space available as she can. She has piled it high from floor to ceiling, moving things out of the way, and really created some wonderful space-saving tricks here. So from front to back, that was the front, and here's the back, and it looks like this is where students might enter. I know when I taught in a trailer for the first year and a half, I had students enter one and leave the other door, just to create a nice flow. So you can see she has baskets, cabinets, and sometimes those cabinets can't be moved, so you have to figure out a way to incorporate them in. This PVC pipe structure that you see here, Pretty sure you can buy that online, but also, if any of you are familiar, you can just go to the plumbing section at your Home Depot and buy some PVC pipe of different sizes and build this stuff yourself. I did a field day last year where I went and I was constantly in the Home Depot and getting PVC pipes to create really fun sections of the field day. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me. Here's just her board, how she keeps it very organized, able to visually see everything. And one note here that you can see, students can help teach them how to respect the space. I have found that if I have a neat environment when they come in, it just promotes them wanting to help keep it that way. So we can teach them how to help us with that. So the physical space. Of course, all of us vary case by case. And here are some thoughts that I have for you. So in my room, I have found that I need to assign home spots in the beginning of the year that just helps the students understand expectations and the procedures for the environment. I don't keep that. I don't keep them having to always go to their spots, but it is a nice thing if there's an issue or something, okay, go to your home spots. They're spaced out, it's safe, they're able to focus on themselves, it creates less distractions. And then from there, I also taught them warm-up spots. So I'll say stand from your home spot and move to your warm-up spot. And that warm-up spot is as spaced out as those students can be. And they do an excellent job of remembering it. So that if we're doing a warm-up, and I tend to, depending upon the class size, so my class with 32, what I do is I kind of make a stationary warm-up, things like burpees and squat jumps and push-ups, things where they're not traveling around the room. That allows for just a real safe space saving, that's a tongue twister, way to do things. Having a flow to your room also helps. As I mentioned when I taught in a trailer, what I did was I had students enter one door and then exit the other so that I don't have any time between my classes. One ends at 9:30, the next one is coming at 9:30. This allows one to just seamlessly flow through to the next, and that if a teacher is late picking up a class, they're waiting off to the side where they know so that the other class can enter and get started on their instant activity, their warm up, or whatever it is for the day. So you have to think through that. Stations are key in small spaces. So whether you're pushing into a classroom and you're going around to teachers' classrooms and you are having to work around their space and the desks and the chairs, or you're in a trailer or a small classroom, stations really have saved a lot of stress for me. They're quick, easy, students know how to work through them because they have centers in their classrooms as well. So you can carry that sort of organization over into the PE room. So if pushing into a classroom, will you move the desks and chairs or will you work around them? I've done both myself, but let's hear from an expert. So Kenedra Tucker, she's also another PG County teacher, and she has a lot of knowledge around teaching in small spaces. And here's what she says, and I'm just going to read it because it's excellent. If you teach in a classroom, make your lessons classroom friendly. I was always able to teach without having to move desks. Use the desk or chairs as equipment. For example, students can hand dribble on the desk. The chair can be used as a goal. One specific example, students kick their yarn ball through the legs of the chair goal to their partner on the other side of the chair. So I've done similar things to what she has done here, but I just thought it was an excellent example and quick and easy to see. So if I'm pushing into the classroom, I'm not taking anything that's going to break. So I might not take a red playground ball or a basketball, depending upon what it is. Yarn balls, things that are softer, definitely in the beginning of the year so students can understand just how important it is that we not break the space that we're in, respecting that environment. So here's a little grid of my classroom. Feel free to laugh and chuckle on your own. I know I did when I created this. I'm not good at it, but I tried. So this is a small classroom and students enter in over here where the big arrow is, and they have to also exit that same way. And then right when they come in is the cubbies. And a lot of my students come from lunch or going to lunch, and so they have things to bring and they know exactly which cubbies to put them in. And then you can see my station numbers. Those are the big numbers. And I actually have color-coded groups. So when I give them their home spots, they're the colors of the rainbow. And then that's where they start. So they know the purple station is always over here in the corner and the blue station is always there. And they know that they start there and then they move around the room. So transitions are also very important no matter what space you teach in. But I just feel like in small spaces, everything that's important already is just even more so important because of that safety factor and that organization and the potential for chaos. So I use music. I use a clap sequence. I use meet me here, meet me there, but I try to change it up so that they're not taking their time. Gallop and meet me at the wall. Gallop and meet me here. Skip and meet me. So changing it up for some of my students in classes that really like to run everywhere. I might have them walk like an astronaut or something else that they might move slowly to minimize that running piece where they're sliding on the floor like they like to do. You can also use go toe to toe with a partner. Go home. So sometimes I'll say go to your home spots. Sometimes I sing a song. I'm not going to do that for you now because I am not a singer. My students like it, but I don't think that adults would. And I'll sing a little song to them just to catch their attention. There's an infinite number of ways to transition and get their attention and move them from one place to the next. So you can see there's a question down there. What are your favorite ways to transition? Please share on the Tozzle so that people can see exactly what your transitions are. So I'm just going to take a look over here at Tozzle. I think there's some.
Yeah, I think Ryan had asked, seems like the routine and attention to detail is key to making the rest of the year flow. So I wanted to know what you would say, these two aspects, whether or not they're really key.
Routine and attention to detail are key to making the rest of the year flow. I would say that how you start your year has a tremendous impact on how you continue your year and how you finish your year. So I take a few weeks in the beginning to really make sure that procedures are known, how you come in, how you should act as you come in, how we act in here. We're a team, the types of things that we can say and talk about, and paying attention to everything. So yeah, I guess I would say that routine and attention to detail are pretty key. Are they the only key? No, but they're very key as we move forward. Does that answer the question? I hope so. Let me know if there's more questions, please. I'm trying to look back and forth at both. So movement time. We want to have students up and moving, but we do not want busy, happy, good. So we don't want them to just be moving for the sake of moving with no learning or focus on physical literacy behind it. We don't want them to be, oh, they're happy because they're up and they're playing a game. We want them to be focused, and we want to be creating physically literate individuals. And I know there's a couple sessions this morning about that, so I'll save that for those individuals. But we want our movement to be quality, and we do want them to be moving. So I mentioned earlier that I had a tendency to have them sit more in the beginning, and that was me learning. It was a learning curve, but having organization, having attention to the safety concerns and the transitions and everything really help promote the activity here. Thank you for making it this far. So what I have now is I have some lesson ideas, resources, and things to share. And this is really what I wanted to get to. So let's dive in and take a deeper look at this. Sorry for the tongue twisters. So I had a health-related fitness unit. And what I do sometimes, and I've shared this on Twitter before, is I'll take the date. So for example, today is November 12th, 2016, and I'll just create a quick warm-up for them. And they really look forward to it. They have their own ideas sometimes that they will submit, and they really take that on and love it. And then what I have also done to incorporate technology is I've created videos. Some of my videos are from a few years ago, and they're rough around the edges, but we will take a look at them, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just want you to see what I did. It was really simple, and I had 6 iPads, and what I did is I spaced them around in the different stations, and all that students had to do was go up and push play on that video, and they were just performing it. Some of the older students in different grades, they had a peer assessment making sure that their partner or their group was following along with what that exercise should look like. So let's take a quick look at this. I hope it works. Mike, please let me know if people are not able to see it. The sound is not important on this. So all it is just a burpee, and students were able to just follow along and do that with me. And I just had somebody film me after a workout one day. That was it. It took a minute. I did a minute of it. So it was a couple challenges that I did for students where Miss Murphy does 1 minute. And what they did is, because I created a YouTube channel, they were able to go in, and I made that public, and they were able to look at it at home. And I had reports of students doing it, the exercise at home, and saying, I came in and I beat your score, Miss Murphy, or I'm almost there. I was going pretty slow. So a lot of them didn't have a problem with it. But take that idea and run with it, please. If you have a different way to do it, or that sparked something in you to think about, that's excellent. That's what we're looking for. So then the assessment for that was, I had those clear washable pockets, and the assessment was in it, as I mentioned, and students were able to just answer the corresponding questions at that station for what we had there. Another lesson that I had was half the class. So you do 50-50. The warm-up was with a Tabata app. If you're not familiar with Tabata, you do 20 seconds of work, and then you have 10 seconds of rest, and it goes back to back to back for 8 rounds of that. So it takes 4 minutes to complete. You can obviously change that, but that's the true Tabata. You can make it 30 and 20, do 4 rounds, whatever you want to do. But there is an app that I got that students love. So it plays music when they're working, and there is somebody up on the screen doing the actual exercise, and they learned about what muscle they're working. And all I did was went into the App Store on my iPhone and typed in Tabata, and it's the first one there. So half of the class with the ball is dribbling around the space. It can be a foot dribble or a hand dribble, your choice. And then their partner has one of those clear washable pockets, and they're peer assessing with the cues in front of them, answering those questions, watching their partner. And this would be a pre-assessment. So they're doing this first. Then what they do is, when they're done with that assessment, once each of them have switched and they've done it, the other person then becomes an obstacle. So they don't have the assessment anymore. They are the obstacle. And they're not a silent obstacle. They're a talking obstacle that can remind others of the cues. They're giving corrective feedback. You can change that and create it. You can say that the students then walking around have to give a fist bump or a high five or something like that, challenging the dribble. So take that and just expand it out. This is just a simple form of it. The next thing here is, I just have some miscellaneous ideas. So it wasn't actual lessons, it's just bits and pieces here. So relays. I really like the relays in my small space. And you can still do this if you're pushing into a classroom. You just have to be creative, of course, about how you do it. So like I said earlier, I don't always want everyone moving depending upon what we're doing, but I also don't want people just sitting around. So what I have is, and you can see the little grid over here, again, forgive me for my terrible grid making, but they have the different colors. So they're color groups, or you can do it however you want to. And then you have their cone in the middle, and they might have to run up and grab the muscle name that they're using for that day, or answer the question, or get the cue, whatever you might have up there, or just complete an exercise. Everyone else that's waiting behind them is not just sitting crisscross applesauce. They are holding an isometric movement. So maybe they're holding a plank or a wall sit or a Superman, or a banana is when you're the opposite of a Superman and your feet or arms are up and into the air and your back is on the ground. Something like that, where they're holding an isometric movement, and then you're teaching them about what muscles are you working here? What are you working there? So everything is that learning and that teaching opportunity here. But the relay idea, they can meet in the middle. You can have the typical lines, but whatever they're doing, if they're waiting in line, they're not simply just sitting there or standing there cheering each other on. They're working too. And they get really excited about it, who can stay up the whole time that their group is working, and then they rotate through those exercises. So a teacher in my school actually showed this to me, and I really liked this as not only a great tool for teaching, but also to set up the space in my environment. So I have set up my room sometimes just like this template here. And so you have one group over here with the definition, one group with the facts and or characteristics, non-examples, examples, and then the concept in the middle. And students can rotate through to each station, and they might be doing something, they might be writing something, they might be doing both. But I liked this model that they can see and we can write with and work with, and it can be homework to talk about the concept of principles of wellness. It could be something that they're actually doing and they're going to define it. And there might be an activity that they're doing there. Of course, making everything meaningful here. But I've just started to work with this and I've seen some good things come out of it. So another idea is some stations. So for the underhand throw, what I've really looked at is I need to use every piece of space that I have here. So if you just take a $1 or $2 shower curtain that you can get, or maybe you have an extra, and you can create a tic-tac-toe board on there. It only takes about 5 minutes to do. You can reuse it over and over again. It's easy to clean, easy to wipe off, and they can do an underhand throw tic-tac-toe as a station. Skee ball, that game that we all love from way back in the day, or I haven't played it in a long time, so it's way back in the day for me anyway. I did this for one of my field days. You can take different sized bowls, you can go to the dollar store and get them, and you just space them out, smallest to biggest, and they have different points that they have to reach, of course, trying to reach that target for accuracy and distance for the underhand throw. If you're in a classroom that has that ceiling that has the crisscross of the metal with the foam tiles in it, you can take just a paper clip and some yarn or some string, cord, whatever you have, and just cut out a star, maybe on cardstock paper so it's a little bit thicker and holds its shape, and just hang that from there, and that's a target that they can hit, and those move a little bit more. It really doesn't take that long. I know it seems like it would, but it really doesn't, and it's a fun, interesting way for them to have another target that they can throw to. Use the cubbies. So the cubbies have different spaces and they're there, so why not use them? Different size cubbies can be worth different points depending upon the difficulty of the target. Open the cabinets in your classroom. I keep mine empty for the most part in my small space, and just open them up. They can throw it to different heights. They can throw it to different sizes. I think you get the idea. So student designed assessment. This is one that I created when I was going through the FFT and when I've been observed. They really want the students to design the assessments, and it took me a while to figure out a good way to have them work through this, and this is what I've landed on most recently, and I'm still working with it. Let's take a look at it. So students are going to design the parts of it, but of course we want to lead them to being accurate in what they're designing. So I created a GIF of myself, I hope I'm saying that the right way, overhand throwing, and it just repeats itself on the projector so that they can see it and watch as many times as they need to. They're going to, you can either do an overhand throw that's wrong or an overhand throw that's correct, depending upon what your goal is. And they can record the ones that are wrong, record the ones that are that should be there. So I went with the wrong approach. And write down the cues that should be there. You can check each point that you go along, so you can stop students and talk about it, so that as they move through, they're not going to be led to that wrong conclusion and be frustrated when they get to the end. So lead them through it. And then at the end, you're going to have them create a grading system. So what's the maximum score? What's the minimum score you can get? Explain your answer. Why is that the case? Why do you think so? And then they will simply use that tool and they will assess each other. So this scores very well in observations, because students are designing and taking a part in their learning. I also created fitness minute videos. So it's just an intro and then a minute of exercise. And this format is a little bit better. I'm not as embarrassed to show this one to you, but still, it's just a fun idea, and you can take it and edit these videos any way that you want for any purpose that you have. And again, students can create their own fitness ideas, their own workout program, and create a video using the school's equipment. You can take this and make it an after-school thing. You can put it in your lessons. But let's take a quick look so you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
Good morning, Robert Gray Elementary School, and welcome to your Fitness Minute, where every day we work to become healthier and happier. Now, every day on the Fitness Minute, you need to make sure that you're being safe and not hitting those around you. So put your arms up and make sure that you won't run into anyone or anything. Now, let's see what's coming on today's episode of Fitness Minute. Welcome to today's episode of Fitness Minute. We're going to alternate between squat jumps and marching in place. Ready?
You can see there, it's just a fun way to incorporate technology and working out there for students. I am a little bit embarrassed about showing that to you, just a little bit, because students do like it, but I still feel a little bit silly there. So have some fun with it. The students really get into it. There's definitely some things that I would change about it, but you know, hindsight is 20/20, right? So some organizational tips here. If you have color-coded groups like I do, you can get the same colored pouch. Those are not the ones that I use. I couldn't find them anymore. But something to that effect where they can hang off of the wall in front of them. Students can go get pencils, their homework, so you don't have to take time. They can just each go up and divvy it out into their group. They can get their peer assessments for that day. They can get their plickers. I love plickers. I don't have time to do that today. I know Ryan Jaco uses them a lot too. He's the one that showed them to me, so he can help out as well. Sorry, I'm volunteering you, Ryan. So plickers are great. Anything that you can store in those, it saves time of you having to hand out those or one student handing it out to the whole class. It's a time saver there. I have begun to use Google Classroom for my older students, so students in grades 4, 5, and 6, and so far I love it. So I'm sort of piloting it with them. And it works really well. You can bring iPads, Chromebooks, whatever your school system has into your classroom, and they can complete it in the classroom for students that don't have that option at home or won't have time to complete it in their classroom. It saves paper, which we're all trying to do. We run out of paper a lot at our school, so it's helpful to have that option. And you can use Google Forms, Google Docs, Google Sheets to give them assessments, homework. The list goes on, but it's all online. And they love it because it's another platform similar to Edmodo or Facebook where they get to interact with each other. Of course, you have to monitor it. And this was the very first assignment that I gave students. And I just wanted to get to know them, get their email address, which is how they can sign up, and get their parents' email so their parents can also be on Google Classroom. And this is a great way to get information to parents. Parents can see their homework. Parents can see what you're doing. You can send messages to your parents so that they're involved too. So it's that great connection and communication piece. So that's that simple form that I created. Nothing too fancy there. These are just some simple steps for the lesson planning that I do. I just thought I'd throw them out there quickly. So I take an objective and I build from there. So I look at the space, I look at the class sizes, I'll build the warm-up and the tasks. Again, supporting physical literacy is so important that we're doing that with everything that we're putting into our lessons. And then the assessment that matches that, closure, and going to the next lesson. I think I'm going to skip the lesson plan. It is on your Tozzle because I really want to get to something else real quick. So here's the resources for teaching in small spaces. ESPEchat and Twitter have helped me so much. There is so much that's going on Twitter right now that is just extremely beneficial. Even if you can only hop on for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, go in, screenshot something that you saw that was awesome, and you can go back and look at it later and add it in. It's a constant, consistent source that I use all the time. PE Digital Library, they're great because they give you large space options and small space options. So you just have to go on there through Human Kinetics. I can give you that information too. Excellent resource. Open Phys Ed, I really love. They have some great lesson plans, some great ideas that I take in there. They also have some great things for sub-plans, pretty easy to follow so that anybody can come in and do that. The book, No Gym, No Problem, it's a great read. And then sometimes I go to PE Central and Google and YouTube and Pinterest just to see what else is out there. Am I missing something? Because sometimes teaching from another perspective, you might see an idea that goes, oh, okay, I can use that here. Or I can change it to make this work for me in this way. So using all of this, and then of course, always going to our fellow physical educators to see what they're doing, how it's working for them, because you can have confidence that, okay, they've tried it and it worked for them. Let me try it and see how I can make it for me. And with all of this, what I've learned over the past couple of years is I don't feel like I'm a creative person. So I feel like I'm always looking around to others and seeing what they're doing, but that something creative that they're doing sparks that something in me, and I change it and make it work for me. So I'm not creative, but there's some great things out there that are, and we can use those. So these are just some friends of mine that had something to say to encourage us about teaching in small spaces. I'm not going to take the time to read it, but please go in and look, because there are some excellent things that they say in here, and I incorporated some of them in the presentation. But they just have some good encouragement for you and some great space-saving, time-saving, organizational tips and tricks for you. There's a video from Kid President if you want to go in and watch it. He's just talking to teachers and students because he's just an encouraging individual. So thank you for attending this session. I really hope that it was helpful. Really hope you got something out of it. Please let me know if there are questions. That's all I have, Mike. So.
All right, so why don't we give people a little bit of time for questions, and then we'll close it out. But really, just great. So let's give people a little bit of time. Not everyone types as fast as some others.
And if there aren't any questions, that's completely fine. If you want to email me or send me a message on Twitter, that's cool too.
Looks like Ryan has a question for us, for you specifically.
I wonder if I should be nervous about this question.
Oh, he's probably going to make it hard for you.
That is a great question. The question is, what advice would you give to a new phys ed teacher starting out in a classroom space? Take your time in the beginning and really sit down and think through what you have available to you. I always like to know where I'm starting so that I can know how I want to get to where I'm headed, because it's pretty easy for us to sit down and think about where we want to go with something. But that process is what we have to look at. Try it. Try an idea. If you have it, try it. It might not work. It might fail. I can't tell you the number of times that I have tried something and immediately scrapped it and said, nope, and to the class, nope, we're not going to do this. This isn't working for us. Don't be afraid of stuff. Don't be afraid of asking questions. Reach out to people. There's no silly question. I can't tell you the number of times I felt silly, but people never made me feel silly when I asked it. They were always very helpful. And then just, like I said, be creative. There's an endless number of possibilities. And if you really look at those resources, I really, really wish that I had paid attention to more resources when I started teaching and looking at what was available to me, because so many people are in the same situation that I was, and I was not looking at it until more recently. And looking at things like the PE Digital Library and Twitter and just asking people that I know for help is so valuable. And just like you see Ryan said there, don't be afraid to fail. it's so much trial and error. And I hope that I can say that every year, that I'm constantly trying new things and failing and then succeeding at it as long as I am teaching. So on rainy days, we are in the classrooms at the elementary level. Many of the teachers do not want us moving any furniture. Any activities you like best for this situation? Some of the ideas that I gave earlier in the presentation, and that is an excellent question. I understand that I've had teachers come in and they stay in the room the whole time because they don't want you moving their things and they don't want you hitting anything. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but you want to work with them and you want them to understand that you're both trying to share this space. So what you can do is you can just simply, you can use the desks and the chairs. So like the example I mentioned earlier was, you can have them hand dribbling on the desk, or you can have them create a route through the desks and the chairs to move. I've done a tag game in a classroom where we didn't move desks or chairs at all, and we had to start out with just walking. Everyone had to walk because we had to learn how to move safely. We never got to running, but we did do walking. And then there's that safe space where if they get tagged and they have to go get in a plank position to wait to crawl through the hula hoop, they might go to the cubbies or near the door. You can create stations as well. So what I do when I travel around there is I'll take a couple whiteboards that you can get at the dollar store. I'll have one for my what are we doing today? Why are we learning it? How will we know we've learned it? I have one for each of those questions, and I'll post those up. I'll have maybe one for each station, and I can just, when I walk in, I can have them start walking that route around the desks and the chairs and go put that in different places in the room. So there's an endless number of ways you can do it. I understand it feels like there are not. It feels like there is no way to work with this teacher and you can't move anything. How am I supposed to teach my content? I understand that because it feels like that. Keep trying things. Keep looking for new ideas. I could keep talking about this too. And we could share some messages on Twitter if you have the time. I can't hear you, Mike, for some reason.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so we'll just wait and see if there's any more questions. Anything else that anyone has? But yeah, Jessica, that was a really good question. A lot of people have that issue with classroom teachers. And I just got to work with them and let them understand that they will, oftentimes your space is used all the time as well. So it's kind of a shared space for them. They're just not quite as used to it as we are.
And Ryan has some good suggestions there too, to be positive. I try really hard to do that. I'm sure we all do in our school system and whatever school building that we're at, to make sure that we're being that positivity in the school, because there can be so much negativity in our world that it really helps, and it's really refreshing to see that. So Ryan asked, what methods do you have for getting colleagues on board with sharing space? The best thing I can say is to have conversations. I know this doesn't work for everybody, but I've had conversations, and I always start with going to the person directly and talking to them. So I don't take it to administration right away at all. I talk to the person and just, hey, we have to collaborate on this. What can I do? I always try to just ask that question first instead of coming in and saying, hey, this is what I need from you. Now I want to talk to you and say, this is what I'm trying to do. How can we do this together? How can I help that? And being willing to help them in something goes a long way too. It's not easy. So is that it?
It looks like, as long as Ryan wants to keep adding. He's great with conversations, and he's such a wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
All right. So Yeah, you New Yorkers, right next to Justin Schneider and the New Jersey folks. So why don't we close it down, if that's okay, Kristen? Anything else before we do that?
No, just thanking everybody again for coming and being here. I appreciate it, and I hope that I helped you in some way.
All right, great. So thank you, Kristen, very much, and thank you everyone for coming to the Phys Ed Summit and ESPEchat. I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did. Just for helping when I'm stuck in a classroom, it really will help my teaching. So we're going to archive all sessions on YouTube. Search for ESPEchat, and we will post the links on our website soon. And then we have 3 more great sessions coming up after this one. So please check out ESPEchatweebly.com, the website, for the links. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks, Spike.